Thanks for staying with us. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Sakal Bhatt. And going back to our top story, the success stories showcasing the international demand for made in India items, the brand made in India and its growing presence in international markets. Basically, we will be talking about how Make in India is propelling or fueling India's economy into the global stage. Prasanjit K. Basu, senior economist, joining us in our DD India New Delhi studio for discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Basu. Now, we'll from Bihar boots to Amul and the bats that are made in Kashmir, and if you look at the online sales in e-commerce also, overview of the reasons attributed to this sudden surge of Indian-made products in various domains and sectors making their mark globally.
Well, this is a long initiative. Of course, the Prime Minister in his first Independence Day address said, "Come, make in India." It's been a difficult journey, but 10 years later, we're beginning to see the first significant fruits. So if you look at Apple, it is significantly expanding its manufacturing in India, and it is making in India for the world. And similarly, we're beginning to see that occur across a vast swath of different products. And it'll soon be reflected in our exports of goods, which have continued to actually outperform most of Asia over the last 5 or 6 years. Especially since the COVID period. We've seen a really powerful export recovery. There have been a few difficult months, but generally speaking, we're now on a recovery trail as well.
The upward trajectory, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, in the space of India's UPI, that has also become a global phenomena, and this has enabled seamless digital payments in multiple countries, and that's a very revolutionary step, if I would use that word.
Yes, I think Digital India was another of the Prime Minister's major focus areas, and it has truly borne fruit. The digital stack has made India a global leader. India is now by far the single biggest source of digital payments on a monthly basis anywhere in the world. In fact, the number of digital transactions in India is more than the next 2 countries put together. And that is a huge success that almost every Indian can palpably feel.
Right.
And it wasn't an easy thing to do, but that achievement is remarkable. And of course, we've just seen that the IMF has raised its forecast for India's GDP.
And the ADB numbers are also very good.
Yeah, I mean, they're just about 7%. I think they're too low. Frankly speaking, this year, real GDP is likely to grow about 8.5%. The average growth of the last 3 years was 8.3%. The latest year was also about 8.2%. So 8.3% growth over the last 3 years at a time when the current account has moved into surplus in the latest quarter and inflation is pretty moderate, means that there are no signs of overheating and the Indian economy can accelerate. In fact, we are going to see an acceleration this year. So I think these forecasts of 7% growth are somewhat laughable to me. What we should be looking at is at least 8 and the likelihood of 8.5% growth and more in subsequent years, especially as the production-linked incentive scheme begins to bear full fruit and as we begin to see a broadening of India's manufacturing rebound.
Yes.
The manufacturing sector has been a relative laggard, but you know, if you look
at... how do you see manufacturing in defense sector?
Well, you know, the defense sector has seen a huge pickup. I mean, over the last, before 2014, India had virtually no defense exports. We are still a significant net importer of defense products, but there's been a massive quantum leap in defense exports.
Self-reliant and Atmanirbhar Bharat.
So Atmanirbhar is beginning to result in significant import substitution. We're seeing significant collaborations even in producing engines, jet engines for fighter aircraft.
Yes.
So those are significant technological leaps that will have that will generate externalities that bear fruit in civilian uses as well over time. But the defense sector is clearly one where India has seen spectacular results. But we are still at a fairly early stage, I'd say a nascent stage of a 5-decade build out of defense capabilities, which will also have other technological benefits in generating other types of manufacturing potential.
Right.
So the world is now coming to India to collaborate and build out manufacturing capabilities here.
How do you see convergences and collaborations in the technological advancements in fintech innovation and you talked about digital India, but fintech is and startups and fintech.
Yeah, I mean, apart from digital, the Startup India initiative has been remarkable too. The massive number of unicorns generated in India. With startups, you're always going to have a few setbacks along the way. We've had some spectacular results in terms of unicorns emerging, but we've also had a few spectacular bust-ups. That is the nature of a startup economy. One needs to get used to some failures along the way, but while there are a few failures, the ecosystem of entrepreneurship is generating a tremendous amount of buzz and is attracting lots of capital coming into India, not only in the form of equity and debt flows, but also private equity, venture capital. There's a real buzz around the entire ecosystem because India is by far the fastest growing major economy in the world. The major competitor economy, China, has slowed to below 5% growth in the latest quarter. So when you compare the emerging market universe, India is a standout story.
Standout story in that sense. Final word, Prasanjit. All this, Make in India, Self-Reliance India or Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense sector, all that actually, adding up to the brand India success story. So it's about brand India worldwide that has actually garnered recognition, not theoretically, but we have the figures and we have the results.
We're beginning to see the results. I think there's a long way to go before India replaces China as the sort of brand for manufacturing. Now, with regard to services, the India brand is all over. But with regard to manufacturing, India is still at a very nascent stage. We're seeing the results of a 10-year push to Make in India, Digital India, all of that, and the fintech aspect of it. All of that is beginning to bear fruit now. But what we also need to see is some more success in labor-intensive manufacturing. I keep emphasizing that the one lacuna we see is in labor-intensive manufacturing. So I would urge states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal to join with Assam and Orissa. Assam and Orissa are relative success stories. Those three
internal convergences,
so you basically need competition among them to garner the labor-intensive manufacturing investments that are currently going more to places like Bangladesh and Vietnam. So if Bangladesh can do it, why can't West Bengal, Bihar and Eastern Uttar Pradesh?
Well, Bihar boots have reached Russia.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but you see, it's happening, but in very small numbers. What we really need is factories producing textiles, garments, shoes, toys, processed food, and employing 20,000, 40,000, 50,000, 100,000 people. So when you have that sort of magnitude of growth in labor-intensive manufacturing, then these numbers that we are now seeing will
further escalate,
will
multiply effect. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on this lead story of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now let's move on to some more stories. Now, India has once again called for much needed reforms at the United Nations, starting with the United Nations Security Council, delivering India's statement at the UNSC Open Debate on multilateral